Hello, BookTube. I've got a fun tag for you today. This is the Romance Journey book tag. It's been around for like 2 years, but I want to do it because I love talking about romance books. I do it occasionally, but I thought, why not do it today? This is a collab tag. This was created by 10 different booktubers, and they are Becky at Becky X Reads, Ava's Romance Books, Bree at In Love and Words, The Love Librarian, Crystal at Crystal's Bookshelf, Jackie at Jackie First Lady Reads, Kalani at Kalani Simply Me, Kelsey at Ruffalo Reads, Sam at Sam Reads a Little, and Jess at Honest Fiction. So all credit goes to them. Check out their channels because they're incredible booktubers. And let's get started. This is such a fun tag. One, about how old were you when you started reading romance? And do you remember the first romance you read? I probably started when I was probably like 15-ish, 14, 15. And I actually started with a lot of the classics. I think my first romance book was probably Pride and Prejudice. I know, I set the bar really high and I was like, I need more Austen. And so I think I read through all of Austen's books when I was like 15 and I love them. I also obviously done the Brontes, Hardy as well, Thomas Hardy. There's some of these books I do think count as romances, like Far from the Madding Crowd and Return of a Native. Like I think he'd done some genuine romance books, but also it's like in terms of novels. I also done a lot of like romantic poetry, a lot of like ancient classics like Sappho, Catullus, Astrophil and Stella by Sir Philip Sidney. I really loved growing up. But in terms of like a first romance author, probably again during the same time I read Nora Roberts and was completely swept by her like thriller, suspense, romances. I just love them so much. I love her contemporaries, and I did remember doing a bit of her categories from the 80s, but again, the categories aren't as much for me. But so those are like a bit of the first ones I done. I also done like Talia Hibbert, Ali, Emily Henry, like all the main ones pretty much. Two, did you deliberately seek out romance? Oh, sorry. Did you deliberately seek out romance or did you stumble upon it and how? Um, in terms of classics, I think I just stumbled upon them really. I always knew who Jane Austen was, so I picked her up really. Nora, I discovered through BookTube with books like Mara from Books Like Laura. I love her channel. And in terms of that, with Nora, I think a lot of the classics I kind of just stumbled into because I've heard of them and they sound familiar. But that's really it. It was pretty much BookTube and just my intuition, I guess. Three, did you start with traditionally published or indie? And has it switched? I have never been an indie romance girly. I've tried. I done the first couple Ice Planet Barbarian books, and they came out back. Oh my god, I even want to know how long ago that was. Lucy Parker, I really enjoy as well. I think she's indie, and that's pretty much where it ends, if I'm being a bit honest. But I've always wanted to try more indie, but I don't know. I've always just been traditionally published because it's. I just find it easier to find and also just own a copy. It's just a bit more convenient for me. And also, I'm not an ebook girly. I've tried to be an ebook reader, but it just isn't for me. But yeah, so indie, I've never been. I've tried. I've definitely tried, but I've always been traditionally published. Four. What was a romance trope you were afraid of that you were afraid to try but ended up loving? And for me, that was the childhood like marriage pact. Like if we're not at this age, we'll get married or whatever. And I was a bit, because I was like, that sounds ridiculous. Like until I read it, and I was like, oh my god, like it works because when you jump into the future, there's um so much changes about characters in a decade or 20 years or however long the pact ends out or whatever. And I just, whenever it's used in a romance, I always really like it. And yeah, I thought that was one, but I thought it was a bit silly until I read it. I was like, give me more, please. And I always see it here and there, but I do like it. Five, is there a romance book you read early on in your journey that you would rate differently today? Um, Not really, to be honest. I'm kind of stick with my thoughts. Maybe someone like the Bodice Rippers. I read. I done. what's her name, Kathleen Woodless. I done her in the early days. I done Rosemary Rogers, Joanna Lindsay, of course, and a couple others like Julie Garwood. And I do like Julie Garwood and all them, but I do read Bodice Ripper here and there, but I really did like them as a teen. They were a bit fun, bit. I think because they showed me that I really liked historical romance, and that's what I've tended to go to more than anywhere else really. And so I may would think differently of something like The Flame and the Flower or um, any Joanna Lindsay novel, but those are probably the ones that I've changed over the years. And into question number 6, how has your taste in romance evolved over the years? I think mostly I've just discovered I just really like historical romance. I think you can get away with more tropes, and I think it's just funner for me than contemporary. I've tried contemporary. I love Talia Hibbert. I've done I have to look at my shelves actually. Emily Henry, I've done Danielle Steele, I've done the big names really, but I think over the years I've just really discovered how much I love historical romance, and obviously Georgia Hare helps with that. 7. What is the most powerful romance that you have read that left a lasting impact on you? And for me, that was when The Scott Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare, one of the greatest romances ever. And we'll get to that next. 8. What was a romance book that told you that, oh my god, what was the romance book that told you this was what I am looking for in my personal life and or partner? And I'm going to say, When the Scott Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. That's all I have to say. 9. Which romance book or books would you recommend to a romance newbie or a seasoned romance reader? Now, I'm going to stick to historical because that's what I know best. I am awful at recommendations. I've probably killed people's love of reading with my awful recommendations. But I'm going to stick to historical. In terms of like a new reader, try Tessa Dare, try Julia Quinn. Sarah Bennett's amazing as well, Sophie Jordan, and I'm not going to just look at the blurbs of their books and pick it up, see what you like, but they're great writers and give them a try. In terms of a seasoned romance reader, again, if you like historicals, try a Georgia Hare. Just look at the titles, see what you think of her. She's a bit more old school, there's not going to be as much spice or whatever, but her dialogue and her characters are just so witty and so fun. And so yeah, if you haven't read Haya, please do. Or maybe try a Barbara Cartland. Why not? You probably won't like it. But so yeah. 10. In your eyes, what are 3 perfect romances? I'm the first one I'm gonna say is The Wall, Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. Probably the greatest slow burn I've ever read. It is probably my favorite like book talk romance. I've tried romantasy. It's just not for me. But Wall, Winnipeg and Me, they don't even hold hands for like hundreds of pages, and somehow I'm just still so invested in it. I can't explain it. And like it's the only sports romance I've actually really liked. I want to be a sports romance girly. The only other sports romances I've really liked outside of Mariana Zapata has been Tessa Bailey's. And Tessa Bailey's a lot more tongue in cheek. I love Tessa Sports books. When she done, I read Hook, Line, and Sinker, and it happened one summer or whatever it was when they first came out, and I enjoyed them. But outside of that, Tessa didn't do much for me until she started doing her sports books like Picture Perfect and the one that's coming out in January next year. I can't wait for, and obviously Fangirl down in the background. Again, they're a bit more tongue in cheek, but those anyway, what am I saying? So The Wall, Winnipeg and Me as a great slow burn. I love it. It's contemporary, so you'll find it in your bookstores and whatever. So that. I'm also gonna say Emma by Jane Austen. Easily, it actually probably is my favorite Austen. I know I've been saying for a long time that Persuasion is my favorite Austen, but Emma is just more funnier. It's more tongue-in-cheek for me. I love the main romances. I love the minor characters. It's a chef's kiss of a book. It's incredible. Give it to me any day over Pride and Prejudice, to be honest. Then I'm also going to say another perfect book is Venetia by Miss Georgia Heyer, of course. Venetia is a recluse because of the way she was raised, and Lord, what's his name? I got it down here. Lord Dameril becomes her neighbor, and one day he finds Venetia's brother injured, and so he takes care of him, and they become friends. And obviously, Venetia and him, Damnell, whatever, fall in love, and it's a lot of like the family dynamics around that. It's just incredible, and it has a very great happily ever after because it's Georgia Heyer. And so yeah, that was the reading journey tag. There's a lot of authors I didn't mention or whatever, but this was so fun. I had to do it. And so yeah, thank you for all the booktubers who done this. And if you created this tag, sorry, and if you want to do this tag and you like romance, please do because it is fun and it will make you go to your bookshelves and pick out some books. But yeah, thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.